model, Rich Wenning. Nice. Looking sharp, too.
Perfect, thank you. Are we on now? All right. So how do we build a next generation accountability system that actually delivers on the promise of every student succeeds? ESSA provides a rare opportunity, I think, to recast educational accountability, repair and build trust, and generate the public will necessary to embrace a hopeful, modernized vision of public education and its purpose. That common purpose, ensuring the adequacy of each individual student's progress towards college and career readiness, and ensuring opportunities for learning commensurate with that expectation. To do so, it requires that we align the design of accountability systems with standards-based student progression and the prominence of student-centered learning and competency-based learning. Time has got to become a variable for students and educators in meeting the outcomes we expect. Importantly, this opportunity allows us to prioritize the development of a robust evidence base useful for both formative and summative purposes, and separately to tackle ratings, consequences, and other summative determinations. And this proposal detaches the first from the second to try to insulate it from the political cycles that ultimately revisit consequences and undermine opportunities for innovation and fidelity of implementation. The shift to personalized learning, progression based on demonstrated competency rather than seat time, student and family ownership of learning experiences, and alignment of in-school and out-of-school learning all require a balanced body of evidence reflecting the academic, the social, emotional, and college and career planning, progress, and attainment of individual students. So how might that body of evidence become standards-based and credentialed in ways that employers, higher ed institutions, and accountability systems recognize as demonstrating student readiness for key transitions? How might that readiness be expressed in a digital portfolio owned by each student and family rather than on pieces of paper stuck in file cabinets or student information systems owned by districts and states? The three design objectives of the system proposed here address these questions and promote trust and learning while providing incentives for innovation and modernization. ESSA opens the door to a far more inclusive accountability system centered on students, families, and educators. Such a system must clearly and unequivocally reveal and build a common understanding of the inequities in opportunity and outcome that constitute the gaps that we've got to close to deliver on the American promise. A next-gen accountability system should supply information that helps marshal a consensus for change in our prevailing and, yes, antiquated delivery model and its allocation of resources. But dramatic improvement requires stakeholder trust. Thus, the design of the accountability system should inspire trust, offer needed autonomy, and to create new tools and approaches, and provide fair and engaging and transparent reporting of student outcomes. Thank you.
Oh, look at that timing. Amazing. Of course, this guy has been measuring velocity for his whole career, so that was well done. Okay, Joanne, we'll start with you. This was probably our proposal that got most into some of the stuff that the ed tech world is interested in with personalized learning, competency-based. What's your question?
So one request is it would be great to see some examples like the dashboard, what does this look like? Because it was very theoretical, and I'm worried that we could each read into it what we wanted to. The thing that intrigued me the most about this one is that I think that accountability systems can have a theory of change where they're designed to incent improvement, and that's not what our current accountability systems have been designed to do. They maybe are fair and transparent and whatever, but they're not designed to help promote improvement. Can you talk, I think that is one of the things that you were trying to get at here, but can you talk more specifically about what characteristics you think are most important in order to do that, in order to drive change?
Yeah, great question, and that's definitely a purpose of this. And I guess I just learned this the hard way, trying to impose things on educators and schools and districts over the years. An important issue is a common lexicon and a common set of measures. Once we use different language for policymakers and different language for parents and students, we've just lost the conversation. Bandwidth is finite. So if we can focus the conversation of all actors using that same language, using the same evidence base and how we describe it, we can take advantage of the limited bandwidth folks have to pay attention to what we're doing. And so that issue is a major element of the theory of change here. So common language, the growth measures that we created, SGPs, were based on a pediatric growth chart, something that all parents worked with. And that, again, was the idea to remove the abstraction. And for those of you that want to design various models, go for it. But think about doing those in simulations with specific stakeholders. How we communicate to parents and engage students in their own learning has got to have a common language and a common set of measures that are equally meaningful to all parties.
Okay, Andy, quick question.
Yeah, so both Mike and Joanne got in the same direction that I was headed, which is, I think, one of the great enticements of your plan is it suggests to me that the school systems that we might have 10 or 15 years from now with more choice, even course choice, more technology, might more neatly fit into what you're planning here. So I just want to give you a chance to say, as we think about the changing school systems that we're dealing with, how will we not be fighting the last war? How does this prepare us for the future?
Yeah, exactly, Andy. And that's what I tried to do is present something here that wasn't just tinkering with the existing system. The performance imperative that we have is huge. Nothing that we've attempted so far is sufficient to move us from a system where most kids that start behind stay behind. That's what we've got. We've incrementally improved. But to deliver the vast majority of kids to the common destination requires something different. And all of you that have kids, your kids are interacting with information in such a different way. And so in the future, the idea of beginning the process of building the digital portfolio, which, yes, will get solved by the tech sector for sure, the tougher part are actually related to what roles we expect educators to play and the roles of parents and how we expand time. So this is resting on sort of those tier 1 indicators at first, but it's inviting the development of those 4 layers of evidence, getting all the way down to teacher judgments using the complete body of evidence about the on-trackness of students so that we get them to engage in professional practice focused on student work.
All right, big round of applause for Rich Wenning. Thank you, Rich. We're going to move to the voting. Keep in mind, you're voting on his proposal, not on how well dressed he is, because he would crush us all on that measure. Did you notice the Trumpian huge in there? You said you had a huge challenge. I love that. Thank you. He's from that part of the country. We'll give that. Okay. Love it, 100%. Oh, here we go. Like it, love it, hate it. Again, a big focus on growth, of course, but also on these digital portfolios, competency-based, thinking ahead. Okay. Good. Let's hear it. Tony, you first.
Well, Richard, I hate doing this because I love the Colorado growth model. But I went like love it, hate it. Because here's where I came down. First of all, I thought you did an incredible job of talking about what we want education to be. And to Andy's point, if education gets there, how do we measure it in the future? And I would have loved to have had those talking points at one time because you so eloquently did that. But like Joanne said, I kept saying, where's the accountability system here? So I found it to really be some of the most compelling, great, futuristic, visionary ideas without really the ability for me to say, I know what this looks like in practice.
Okay. Charlene?
So that was my love it minus. I think what I love that you didn't talk about a lot in your proposal was the idea of schools and teachers and students as learning communities. And I think that is something that's transformative in education. So I agree, I think maybe we need some details and things like that, but in terms of an idea to move forward with, I think it's really exciting to introduce into the argument.
Okay, Joanne?
Yeah, I want to give it a love it for very similar reasons. I think there's some work to be done to really make it concrete and help people understand what it means, but it's got some of the best ideas of any of the proposals that I read, so I think that it is totally worth reading. There's things like educator opportunity to learn, which I didn't see in any other proposals that I think are just really important drivers of improvement and change, so totally worth reading.
Okay.
So I'm only giving it a like it, but I think that this plan may have the biggest upside of all the ones that I read. So I'm only giving it a like because as a state school board member right now, I probably would not vote for this. I love the idea that we have a federal law now that allows laboratories of democracy to test this kind of thing, and so I would be psyched about voting for this as a state school board member in 2 or 3 years after I see how it plays out.
You want somebody else to try it first, yeah.
That's right.
Okay, very responsible. Okay, thank you. Great round of applause for the judges. We've got one to go, people, one to go. And that one is none other than Dr. Ronald